In the city of Cyprus around 300 BC, there lived a wealthy trader named Zeno. While on a voyage from Phoenicia to Piraeus, his ship sank, taking with it all of his cargo. Due to this single event, which was entirely out of Zeno's or anyone's control, this once very wealthy man suddenly became poor in an instant. Imagine being Zeno. How would you react if your entire life's work was washed away by the sheer force of nature? What would be the proper response? Would you feel anger, sadness, or believe that life had cheated you? For most of us, these would be normal reactions, but not for Zeno, the father of Stoicism. One small change can last an eternity, and a minor shift in your mindset can lead to larger, more impactful changes down the line. At its core, Stoicism is the definition of acceptance and indifference. After reading the works of Socrates and other great philosophers, Zeno developed and taught Stoicism. According to Zeno, while we don't have much control over what happens to us, we do control how it affects us, and we must use this control wisely. Instead of crying over spilled milk, or in this case lost goods, Zeno focused on maintaining his composure, remaining calm and neutral despite the situation. Such was his predicament. Today, people often see Stoics as those who cannot be broken, individuals who don't linger in emotional extremes like fits of rage or bouts of anxiety. However, the original idea behind Stoicism was far more comprehensive. Rather than just describing people as unemotional, Stoicism was a way to view, describe, and understand the world. It was a way of life, and this way of life has endured for centuries. The philosophy can be applied to modern situations just as effectively as it was thousands of years ago, with equally impactful benefit. Stoicism helps us process negative emotions from adverse experiences and transform them into thoughts that provide us with a unique perspective on the world. Perspective is everything, and everyone in the world has different experiences, leading to different perspective. Once the Stoics gathered, discussed, and taught philosophy in public spaces, their general philosophy became widely known. They believed that Stoic principles could greatly benefit everyone. So it didn't make sense to keep that knowledge confined to the four walls of a school or palace courtyard. As a result, everyone, from slaves to emperors, could learn and adopt Stoicism. And many did. Some of the world's most notable Stoics include Epictetus, whose name translates to acquired, as he was once a slave, Seneca, a renowned statesman, and Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the most powerful men to have ever lived. The early Stoics practiced what they preached, avoiding all forms of segregation and leading the fight against inequality. They even coined the term cosmopolitan, which literally means citizen of the world. Today, when we hear that word, we think of cities like New York, Toronto, Dubai, and London because of their diversity. This was the type of unity and togetherness the Stoics advocated. Even at a time when it wasn't popular, women were allowed to freely learn about Stoicism and become Stoics themselves. So why do so many people adopt Stoicism as a way of life? In a world full of unexpected events, our emotions often get in the way. The reality is that we don't get sad simply because bad things happen to us. We get sad because unexpected bad things happen. Rain is a good thing. Waters our plants, provides for livestock, and keeps the temperature cool in humid climate. But the truth is, when that dark cloud catches you outside without an umbrella, it's never a good experience. So why don't we start crying once it begins to rain? It's because, although the situation is unpleasant, we've learned to expect rain. Something unavoidable. We can't control the weather. Although it's inconvenient, the rain passes and the sun returns. Stoicism teaches us that, in the same way, we should expect that everything bad that can happen will happen. Picture the worst outcome and be content knowing it could occur. One Stoic exercise is known as voluntary discomfort, aimed at increasing feelings of gratitude. Sleeping on the kitchen floor, taking cold showers instead of hot ones, or eating only potatoes for a few days. Exercises like these help you understand that no matter how hard it gets, you'll survive and potentially thrive if your mindset is right. By withstanding uncomfortable situations, we indirectly prepare our minds for future misfortune. In the current world, where advertisements constantly bombard us, we're made to believe that if we don't have the next best thing, look a certain way, or earn a certain amount of money, we will never be happy. This message is more important now than ever. We enter the world not knowing much, learn things at home, in school, and by observing the world ourselves. The thing is, often these sources of knowledge teach us in different ways. Question is, do we need to internalize all of this knowledge? If we do, we could unknowingly set unrealistic expectations for our lives, leaving us ultimately disappointed and unsatisfied. That's no way to live. Instead, we should focus on improving ourselves, for ourselves. We should do things for ourselves and for that reason alone. Attaching any external hope or secondary attachments to our actions almost always leads to disappointment. Most of the time, we end up trying to fill that emptiness with external things, blowing all your money on a fancy car, a house, or even starting a family. Sometimes we do all of these things for their external value, not their internal value. But Stoicism teaches that if you approach life this way, you place your happiness in the hands of external forces, forces that can always fail. Cars almost always break down, natural disasters wipe away entire cities, and divorce rates climb higher each year. Even the free things in life come at a cost of space, both physical and mental. Seneca once wrote that learning to live with less creates space in your life for what truly matters to you. Instead, we must place our happiness on our intrinsic value as humans, and not on anything we have worked to physically acquire. We must choose to keep a cool head regardless of what life throws at us, because no matter what we want, at the end of the day, we have no control over most of what happens to us. But we do have full control over how we react. That is the dichotomy of control, the most important principle in Stoic philosophy. Stoics teach that we must learn to separate what we control from what we cannot. We need to determine our value not from what we can't control, from what we can. Striving toward goals is a good trait, but breaking down when things don't go your way is, in a Stoic's view, useless. Making YouTube videos is much easier than being a Roman emperor, but it can still prove challenging sometimes. First, you must come up with an idea, which can take forever. Then research that idea, scrap it because it doesn't work, start over, script the video, create the video, edit it, make the title and thumbnail, and everything else before you hit upload. Everything up until the point where you click upload is within your control. However, once you click that upload button, the power shifts to the YouTube algorithm. Still, many people judge the success of their YouTube channel or Instagram account based on the number of views and subscribers or followers they have, things that are largely out of their control. Stoics teach that instead, you should judge the success of your work based on the effort you put in, not the outcome of your external hopes. Trust the process. Think about someone who has been working hard at their job for the past 6 months. They feel they deserve a promotion, so they approach their boss with a performance report. Boss says thanks, but doesn't grant the promotion, and the employee goes home thinking they must be bad at their job. They don't consider that the boss might have woken up angry. Someone else might have been more qualified at the time. Or maybe the company was just losing money and couldn't afford it. They don't know the reason, but they still take it personally. If they had simply placed their value on the quality of the performance report they turned in and kept doing what they were doing to earn the promotion they wanted, they could have been much happier overall. With the right perspective, their goal wouldn't have been diminished, just postponed. This reframing of your mindset is crucial. A true Stoic doesn't measure their success by the financial gain of their ventures, but finds comfort in knowing they can live a comfortable life without all the things money can buy. These are the 4 main virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Wisdom is being able to distinguish between what is internal and what is external, and the ability to choose our response to what happens to us. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. Courage. 2 words, persist and resist. Temperance or moderation is what I just did there. Doing more with less, saying more with fewer words. While Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk compete at the top of the Forbes list, Stoics believe that the limit of wealth should simply be having what is essential and then having what is enough. Justice is the most important, all the virtues. It instructs that no one should harm another because we were all born for each other. to do good to one another, not just to ourselves. Nelson Mandela was one of the most famous African leaders in the world. While fighting against apartheid, he was sentenced to life imprisonment, where he remained for 27 years before finally being released. When released, he was elected president of South Africa, and many expected him to brutally punish those who had anything to do with apartheid or his imprisonment. He did. During his time in prison, Mandela read the works of Marcus Aurelius and learned many of the core values of Stoicism, which he practiced throughout his life. Instead of seeking revenge, Nelson Mandela urged his people to seek the opposite, to relax and rebuild. He emphasized that the past was now beyond their control, and the only thing they could do was find a way to move forward and build a better nation. This is the way of the Stoic. In modern medicine, Stoicism is at the core of procedures like rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT, and logotherapy. REBT helps patients identify negative thought patterns that may be causing emotional and behavioral issues. It allows you to challenge the reasoning behind these negative thoughts with logic, and when you realize many of them are unfounded, you can replace them with more productive and healthier beliefs. Logotherapy, on the other hand, is based on the Stoic principle that humans are driven by purpose. Even in the darkest situations, we can fill our lives with meaning and happiness by simply discovering them. As many of us know, though, this is easier said than done. The process, much like everything else, we have to rewire the way we think. Out with the old, in with the new. To fix our problems with happiness, we must practice Stoicism. By redirecting our definition of value to what we can control, we stop fixating on what we cannot control. This leads to a much happier and more fulfilling life. Stoicism helps us steer through past and present storms into calmer and more peaceful waters. And if our ship sinks and we all drown, we can take comfort in knowing we lived a good life, even if it wasn't as long as we had hoped. Because remember, everything has meaning.